Hi, I'm going to talk about the Blu-ray release of the Star Wars saga this time round. Starting off with looking at some of the changes that have been made with the Blu-rays. Aside from the high resolution, which is most notable on the non-digitally captured films, which are, of course, The Phantom Menace and the original trilogy, I've noticed on those films the resolution is significantly higher than it is on the Attack of Clones and Revenge of the Sith. And I don't know if that's just because there's more detail in the video footage than there was in the digital footage, or if the digital footage on the DVDs was particularly high to begin with. Either way, all six films now look really good. In terms of the differences, I mean, in the Phantom Menace, really you've got the digital Yoda, which looks fine, isn't distracting. Although I didn't really mind the original one, but I say it looks fine. Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. I can't really say that I saw an awful lot of difference between the two films, aside from the resolution, so I don't really think there's an awful lot of changes there. For A New Hope, again, nothing massive springs to mind. They have done some more work, particularly around how some of the lightsabers look, which is nice, although you still have that one area where Luke's playing with the little droid thing with Obi-Wan in the Millennium Falcon, where his lightsaber goes white for a little while, and that error's still in there for some reason. And they've kind of tidied up a bit the scene with Han and Greedo, although of course they do still fire at the same times, but it doesn't look quite as cut in now. For Empire Strikes Back, again, not really anything spectacularly different on that, as aside from the fact that it just looks a lot good. And as for Return of the Jedi, well, you've got the Ewok eyes. I can't say I would have noticed that if I didn't know about it before. And of course, you've also got to where Darth Vader says no at the end, which I don't have a problem with it. I know a lot of people do. I suppose it does. You do kind of think, why has he done that? And I suppose it does connect quite nicely to Revenge of the Sith with the fact that it's almost as though Vader's remembering it rather than saying it. It sounds a bit like, certainly the first time he says no, it sounds a lot like he's remembering it. And then saying again, I know it doesn't fit, but that's probably because we're just not used to it. So that works overall, I think. There are, unfortunately, with the fact that it's now such a high resolution, there are a couple of errors it's brought up. Again, with the Ewok eyes, where the fact some of the actors don't have Ewok eyes, they have human eyes with just the mask cut in. Again, I probably wouldn't have noticed that if I hadn't known about it beforehand. However, what I do notice, and it's quite annoying in the original trilogy, is the spaceships, particularly the TIE fighters and the Falcon. You can see they're imposed upon the space because the space is a different colour black. So you've got a dark black for the background, then a slightly lighter black around the spaceships, which tends to follow them around, and that's really quite off-putting. I really hope they sort that out for the 3D release, because every time you see a TIE fighter, or every time you see the Falcon, or even around the Death Star, you've got this white, it's almost like a white glow around them, and it's quite irritating. So, and that's, I guess, that's because it's such a high resolution now, it's visible, whereas before it wasn't. So I really hope they sort that out for the 3D releases overall. In terms of the actual box set itself, it's a really nice box set. Takes up much less space on the shelf, which is always a bonus. But the main things for me that I really enjoy it are having the original trilogy deleted scenes. They're pretty interesting to have. And it's also really nice to have some of the extras, particularly the some of the videos. I particularly like the Star Wars tech. That was a really good video. I quite like that, and about how things like ion engines really do exist, but they're not quite as fast as the ones on the TIE fighters. So that was good. As for the spoofs, some of them were funny, some of them weren't, but you're always going to get that with spoofs. One thing's for certain, there's an awful lot of them. I also really liked the tour of the LucasArts museum. That was quite interesting as well, and just seeing how much of this original stuff is still there and what condition it is, and how some of it seems to be rusted away to nothing, which is quite sad. But yeah, the extras are really interesting, and I did thoroughly enjoy them. Some of the extras, which were from the actual scenes, so the programs that were made at the time of Star Wars, were a little bit boring. Particularly one where they had some little kid telling us the story of Star Wars. And thinking, why is that on there? I didn't like that at all. But yeah, overall, it was a really good set. The Blu-ray release, I definitely would recommend them. The quality is significantly higher than what it has been in in the other ones, and you do appreciate that. As I say, notwithstanding the errors around the superimposing of the ships. The audio is really good as well. Now, I don't know if it's because it's on Blu-ray or because I've recently got a new surround sound system, but you get really good echoes now when you're in the Senate, and I really like that. And I never had that on the DVD releases, so on the Blu-rays that's really good, and it's just much richer tones overall. I haven't listened to commentaries, so I don't know what they're like. I'm sure they're as good as they were originally. I don't know if there's any new ones or anything, so someone else will have to comment on them. So yeah, overall, a very good release, and I don't think the errors have been, rather the changes have been too distracting from what it is. Overall, I think they balance out and they do actually enhance the movies. So we'll see what else has been added in for the 3D releases. Hopefully, the removing of the superimposition of the spaceships. Overall, I think that's definitely worth looking at. Thank you.